the Crosstrek is a whole new game, like getting on the interstate, trying to keep up with traffic, looking a mile ahead down the road to plan your attack. Well, the Subaru Crosstrek was always kind of a cool looking car to me. I mean, driving the WRX, I had the weird WRX, the narrow body, everyone calls it the Corolla. It's not the most desirable one, but I loved it. It was my first Subaru. Fell in love with how they handled. Fell in love with that feel that when you get into it, it's just like unmistakably a Subaru chassis. But I had the WRX for about a year after I graduated college, and it was a lot of fun. Did all the things that they tell you not to do, you know, straight piped it right away, got a Pro Tune on it, just whatever I could put together with the funds I had, and took it to a track day at Road Atlanta. That was an experience, running on stock all seasons and just giving it hell and scaring the instructor that was with me. That was fun. But I still like longed for that kind of off the beaten path. Every time I was driving in the WRX, I saw like a lifted 4Runner, and a lot of my buddies that I went to school with, they all had lifted, you know, 4Runners or Tacomas or Jeeps, and I knew I loved the Subaru, and I knew I wanted to go off-road, but not do extreme like crawl stuff. But I knew I wanted to go to like cool camp spots, get to cool places that you can't normally get in, you know, a lowered WRX or an STI or something. So I always thought they looked cool, seeing them on the road. I was like, man, that thing actually has some good lines. I like how it looks, you know, and I kept talking to my girlfriend like, man, I can see myself driving one of those, and I know they're slow. And everyone's, if you have one or you've ever driven one, you either love it or it's just not quick enough. And it's something you have to live with. Going into a car that's underpowered. It's like a whole lifestyle change coming from cars that were, you know, normally, you know, quick and they got up on their feet, but the Crosstrek is a whole new game, like getting on the interstate, trying to keep up with traffic, looking a mile ahead down the road to plan your attack and getting ahead of a car. I make a game out of it. It's a lot of fun, but that's kind of been my goal, was to kind of combine my love for going outdoors, camping, and also my love for the brand and kind of having that car culture and bringing it over to the off-road side of things. And I've kind of seen that a lot over the past, I'd say 3 or 4 years. A lot of my friends that have, you know, been into cars a decade ago, that were never really into the off-road scene, now they're, you know, have the means to be able to get an extra car, and I see a lot of them going kind of that off-road route because it's still a lot of the same crowd you get from a car standpoint, but it's just applied to, you know, going off-road. And sometimes when you combine the guys that made a really, really sick car and they get their hands on something like an old Land Cruiser, awesome things happen. So my only experience off-road was with a Wrangler, so I didn't think it could go off stuff like the Wrangler could, so I was kind of taking it easy. But gradually, as I was going off-road on these trail rides with friends that were in much more capable rigs, it kind of like egged me on to push its limits slowly but steadily. So it's definitely a challenge, you know, having an underpowered car out there, not the clearance. The stuff that you see on it now kind of evolved as necessities as we started going on these further and further away trails that took a little bit more effort to get to the end goal or the spot that we were trying to go to. So the front bumper was the first thing to go because my girlfriend got tired of us stopping on the trails every 50 feet because I'd hit some dip and the bumper would pop out. We'd have to stop, pop it back in, and so that was the first thing to get cut. Keep it simple has kind of been the goal for the car. So it just has a big old skid plate in the front. All the lights on it were just because you literally cannot see driving out on the trails at night in some of these places. So got to put as many as possible, make it look as much like maybe a Baja truck. There's a lot of people that have been off-roading Subarus for a long time, but I think now it's kind of really gained traction, or at least some kind of minor notoriety within the car community. A lot of people that would have never thought to take their WRXs or STIs off-road. You see lifted WRXs and lifted SCIs with bigger tires now, smaller wheels. Like, it's a really cool thing, and we just kind of longed for having those off-road meetups like you see from the Toyota guys or the Jeep guys. So there's been a bunch of groups that we've been able to work with. Like, there's a Mountain Roo group in just about any city around the country, and they all get together, and there's a lot of just like-minded, outdoorsy type, what you'd expect from a Subaru crowd. But it's a lot of fun, and it's been a really interesting journey, kind of seeing it evolve over the last couple of years, and seeing other cars out there that I'm sorry for all the cut bumpers out there now. There's probably, oh my gosh, probably 3-4 dozen cars like mine out there at this point. But I think it's super cool, and I think the more that people see this type of thing grow, the more you're going to see stuff like a lifted RAV4, or like a lifted Mini Cooper, or stuff like that. Or there's a couple of guys with lifted Miatas that are around the South. And I just think it's that taking what you have and just kind of making it into this really interesting, kind of fun way to experience a different type of car culture is just kind of the really cool point that I've been able to learn over the last couple of years.